This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to AFLAC for supporting I Love Black People Radio.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of I Love Black People. And thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey as we literally move throughout a world where we cherish and we exalt our wonderful Blackness and all of our family members throughout the African diaspora. We say I love Black people as an affirmation. Now, as you know, I'm an engineer and our startup is called I Love Black People. And we literally have an app which is designed to protect Black people from Afrophobia and racism. And we, of course, define Afrophobia by the irrational hatred or fear of people perceived to be of African descent. So we've taken our skills. I'm co-founder. My co-founder, Mr. Mappen, Christopher Mapendera, both of us went to Howard University. Of course, I went to also Tuskegee. We've taken our technical backgrounds in engineering, and we're using it to literally give back to our community. And what we do here on the show is another way of giving back by highlighting some very interesting issues as well as topics and people. And there's such a uh, large diversity of our Blackness. So oftentimes, the more you learn about our history, learn about our present, and think about our future, you realize how vast this Blackness is. And when we start talking about it, it's about 1.5 billion people. We're about the size of China, but of course, we've been dispersed throughout the world in many ways. And this conversation that we have on our radio show is meant to elevate and highlight so many things that are relevant, important, or things that may be a bit obscure that you didn't know about. And so, again, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey as we explore all this. And I think a few things. I mean, it's so much going on. I think that's one of the things that I got to say out loud. There's so much. As you know, we always have a Black Blockchain Summit every year at Howard University. Of course, that's one of the ways I got into the whole startup space. I've been an engineer for my whole adult life, but got into the startup space really as it relates to blockchain. And from that, we are hosting our seventh annual Black Blockchain Summit on the 20th to the 21st. So please be on the lookout. We go to the website, blackblockchainsummit.com, and we're actually expanding our activities with the summit. You know, instead of just focusing on a one weekend of activities, we really are going to change it up and make it something that we're able to share with our community 365. We of course we have the online presence that's all year round, but we're going to do more in the community before and after the summit. And even if those things in the community may be a bit virtual, engaging of our community globally, we want to make sure that technologies that are really relevant, emerging technologies, don't miss our community. And that was one of the reasons why we even started the Black Blockchain Summit, where we literally, when I started college back in 1987, if you can imagine how long ago that was, we were programming in, I was in the School of Engineering, and we were programming in Fortran. And in those days, the computers were in one building and the printers were in another building. It was literally a vast difference of what we've seen today. And this is, of course, before the personal computer really got big. Of course, it was the Apple IIe and the Commodore and all these smaller and floppy disks and things of that nature. And the as the internet started to come of age, oftentimes our community didn't see it until much later. And what we didn't want to do is allow that to continue to happen. So we did a big bus tour called the Black Bitcoin Bus Tour. And we did that back in, I want to say 2018. And we went around the country to different historically Black colleges during homecoming to again share with the young people at the college as well as the older brothers and sisters coming back as alum and sharing the good news of this technology, not to sell people or buy a Bitcoin or getting tokens, but literally sharing the technology itself so that people can make the decision if they chose to get involved or they chose not to. We didn't want our people not to be aware. And we even went to churches and different Legion halls, different community halls. So those were the things that we thought were important. Then as we did that, and the amount of time and energy we spent on the road, and we even had a large, and I still have it, a RV bus, Class A bus that we drove around. We had wrapped it. It was real nice. And the expense and the time and energy, much of it was spent more on the road than actually engaging people. So that's why we came up with the concept of actually having the summit and bring people to us so we can kind of focus the energy. And that's again after now going on 7 years with so much support from the global community. I can shout out to my co-founder in that, John Karanja, who one of my, he's a colleague, but also a mentor in the blockchain space. Super brilliant brother. I met him in Amsterdam, where we were at a Bitcoin Foundation event, and it was probably out of a few hundred people, probably about six Black folks, and three of them were serving coffee, and four of us were there for the actual event. And from there, we kicked it off, and we've been together ever since. And the conference, leveraging really something that was important to me as a Howard alum, is bringing back to alma mater and Dr. Gary L. Harris, who may he rest in peace, was the one that actually allowed us to establish the conference. And he was a big pioneer in the nanotechnology space. So, just, somebody who really was just on the cutting edge and never left his connection to our community. So we honor him to this day with our events and make sure that we are in the community. And now we're looking at expanding that. So we continue to have activities that make sure these emerging technologies are being introduced to our communities. And what better area in the DMV where we have such a high concentration of wonderful Black folks. And again, we want to make sure our children, even our elders, all our community members are aware of the world that's going on around them and are able to participate in a way that's meaningful. We don't want to just be consumers of technologies. We've always been innovators. We're the first to innovate. I always talk about how we as African people have primacy. We're the first civilized people. So there's not a language, not a science, not a subject that we didn't originate and expand and expound and give to the world. And that doesn't make us better. That is stating the facts and gives us a level of longevity that has given us a level of understanding that's to be admired. And that being said, that's the continuation. And I think just in sharing the Black blockchain story about how brothers and sisters coming together in the tech space to share with our community, I think sometimes we don't talk about how when we do these things, I told you names of like Dr. Harris and Dr. Todd Shern and different people, John Karanja and my co-founder, Christopher Mapendera. I think one of the things, you don't have to be famous. I think so much of this journey, I hear people say, make sure you get with somebody who's famous so you can get more attention. And I think that is a way. People leverage all kinds of things like celebrity. But I think what's missing or sometimes gets overlooked is that we all have a gift, we all have something to contribute. And in your own field of human endeavor, there's always a way to connect it back to our communities and to give and to literally, I bring this often up. Frantz Fanon said, out of relative obscurity, each generation must fulfill its destiny or betray it. So we all have a calling, and sometimes the chase, we're told about big cars and big houses and fancy things can somehow get us on a material path and not have us focus on our real purpose in life. And that purpose is not necessarily something that requires any celebrity. It's a part of following our destiny and actually being committed and executing it. So one of the things that we're also doing, and this is about how to take the things that you're doing and make it meaningful. Over 12 years ago, myself and a good friend of mine, David Anderson, we actually bought a villa in the Dominican Republic, and that villa also had, a guest house for our groundskeeper and uh, our staff, and that our staff is Haitian. And it was through that experience I learned about the displacement of Haitian people because of the instability of the Haitian government. And much of that, if not almost all of that, comes from the US foreign policy. And I think sometimes we think that these issues are somehow done by acts of God, and it's actually acts of men. And we as humans have a role to play if deliberate things are being done to destabilize or undermine communities like uh, the country of Haiti, then we can do things to actually deliberately to make things better. And I say displace Haitian folks because many folks that live in the Dominican Republic, island in the Caribbean, if you're not aware, um, and they share one island called Hispaniola. And I always have people say it's one island, but it's just separate. Well, North America is one place, but it's separated. Mexico and Canada, so different places. But with that being said, with these imaginary country lines, uh, the policies of the United States government, is consistently undermined the country of Haiti since its independence in the 1804. And the Monroe Doctrine, this again is a white supremacist ideology and manifest destiny, where literally the indigenous people and our brothers and sisters were subdued by these policies. And as they were able to continue the development, things were done to destabilize them. And there are Haitian brothers and sisters that have never been to Haiti, that are born in the Dominican Republic, but their status, they don't have proper status. They're not been given the opportunity to be Dominican citizens. So when you don't have that status, like stuff like school is free if you're a citizen, but if your status is not clear, then now you're falling through the cracks. And while we've been there with the villa, and again, let me just be candid. When I first came to DR, I came for the same reason that most people go to DR every year. It was a vacation. It was actually somebody had I think a bachelor party, or they were doing an event. And or wedding. It was, a host of things that were going on. And with that being said, I wasn't taking the place serious. And it wasn't until I started doing my research and again connecting the dots as a part of the African diaspora, realizing and seeing the issues that our people are facing. It doesn't matter if you're speaking Creole or Spanish or English. These are contexts of our colonial, our colonization. But it became imperative to me that wherever we go, we should be adding to the place we go to. And Frantz Fanon also said, if you ever go to Europe and you see an African, they're either a trader, a slave, or a tourist. If they're a tourist, send them home. If they're a slave, free them. And you know what we do with traders. And that whole thing about being a tourist was always problematic to me in the sense that, you know, much is given, much is expected. To be able to use a passport to be able to move about and not have someone sanction your movement is not something that we should take lightly. And if we think about enslavement and colonialism and all of these systems that were used through capitalism, what have you, one of the main things was restricting our movements. And as we look at the world, you know, there's a very small group of people who have lots of access, but then there's the masses that don't have access. And so, as much as it's easy to take a US passport and go anywhere in the world can't come to the US or other places. And I mean, that's not reciprocity, that's not fair, but these are the realities that we must change, not accept as law for the sake that God gave us. Man made that a law, and we as human beings can change that. So I think it's important that, you know, we have our villa, and it's villabethany.com. You get a chance, please support two brothers that are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And again, we've, over the course of these more than 12 years, you know, our groundskeeper has been able to raise a family, I think about 9 kids. And, you know, he's in different parts of it. We've, you know, helped him, you know, with his status, and he's part of a church, and we've done as much to the greater community of Haitian folks that live in our community to make sure that we leverage our resources to give back and to support the resources of the brothers and sisters in the community that support us, who help us every day. And again, this is never one of those weird where I'm helping you and you know, I'm entitled to something. You know, this, when I'm in the Dominican Republic, these sisters and brothers take care of us, and we work together. They look after my wife. These are things that we think are important, because it's key that as we kind of pull these communities together, these are the things that are important to build community. And, you know, one of the things that's important with that is that we see each other as a part of a bigger family, and not see each other for the differences, but see each other for the similarities of this great diversity of Blackness that I talked about, with 1.5, more than 1.5 billion people in it. So, you know, as we develop on that, we're going to do even more. As you know, you see what's going on in Haiti in the news. And again, this is a U.S. foreign policy that's been destabilizing Haiti since it got its liberation in 1804. And the French and the Canadians all taking advantage to destabilize that part of the world, which is, again, is in our names, being deliberately done. And we need to make sure it's an issue for us. People talk about immigration. Most people wouldn't give up their birthright to their native land or the land they were born on, but for the fact that there's a level of upheaval that's been caused by U.S. foreign policy. You know, no one wants to go through barbed wire fence and, you know, weeks and weeks of traveling by foot to come clean your toilet. Like that, like when people think that way, I'm not saying it's some type of superiority complex, but people wouldn't leave their birthright to come someplace and cut your grass because everything is fine where they are. And the instigation of that not being fine is oftentimes rooted in the capitalist empire that's been built off the backs of so many people throughout Central America, as it relates to the context of the United States and the Caribbean and South America. So we, you know, in sharing that conversation, I'm saying that we all have a role we can play. I'm not saying you run for president and that's the only way you can do it. I'm not saying even voting is the only way. That's maybe one of the weakest ways. But we can take our talents, we can take our time and do things that are positive. I got married to my wife in the Dominican Republic, And we took our wedding party on the next day to Haiti, Wanamente, and actually uh, I did some humanitarian projects and looked after some folks and made some donations. And then we had already adopted a school for displaced Haitian children, and we made sure that we brought our wedding cake, and they shared the wedding cake from our wedding. So I think it's one of those things with this life we have. We it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes really your commitment, and it takes your time. And we're going to do more with our villa, and praise God, we paid it off, and it's free and clear. But we want to make sure that these resources are used in a way that it benefits the collective, that benefits as many people as possible, so that again, there's we have a calling, we have a purpose that we're here, and we must either fulfill it or betray it. And with that being said, being able to share these opportunities, and even if as a tourist, if you find yourself in places like the Dominican Republic, try to, before you go, find out what's going on locally, get an understanding of what's happening, and be a part of the solution. Again, people sometimes think this superiority thing, and they go places and see things aren't working, and they somehow think it must be the person that they're looking at that caused it. But oftentimes, the people that we're looking at don't even have the agency to change what's going on. In many ways, you might, as if you're a US citizen, may have more influence on what happens in that country than their own citizens. Let me say another way. Just think about Afghanistan and the 20 years that the US government, bombed and killed and attacked and did all these things. But these are US policies. So the actual Afghan person that lived in Kabul probably had less say so in what was going to happen during those 20 years than the US citizen voting in these different presidents and these different political representatives who were beholden to the military industrial complex that literally just kept bombing and bombing and bombing and bombing and spending like literally trillions of dollars of making these arms manufacturers wealthy. While we had our relatives and friends come back home, you know, mentally and physically scarred, if not, worse, because of what was done to them in this process. And I'm saying that because literally the tens of thousands of people who were killed, I mean, had no, probably couldn't find the U.S. on the map, let alone did the sisters and brothers who went over there could find Afghanistan on the map. So we got two groups of people that can't even find each other on the map, literally in some mortal combat to the death. And we somehow justify that or legitimize that as, somehow above our thought process because it's foreign affairs. But right and wrong is right and wrong. Like there's no like language, there's no whatever sophistication they tell you about policy making, you know, killing children, bombing villages. This is wrong. And we have people justify violence, but we all know the results of violence is more violence. There's no peace that comes out of violence like that. That energy begets more of that energy. So when we talk about peace, you're normally talking about diplomacy. That's when people sit down and actually have a real conversation. And what we're not seeing enough of is that taking place. And that's, I'm talking about, internationally. But again, whatever role that we have to play, we should try to use whatever those resources we have to make a difference. And it's not enough to say, I didn't know. There's too much, we're so connected now with information that everything that's happening, you can actually often see in real time. And I'm not talking about the corporate media, which is again spoon feeding us information to fit an agenda without sharing with us what the actual agenda is. So I think it's important that we all take a role in whatever aspect of our lives to be that difference, because no one's going to come save us. And we're also seeing that even locally in Washington, D.C., with our pilot program where we're doing with the Love and Protect Our Children, where we literally are committed to the fact that legally. So it's literally more of us than there are those who are doing these wrong things. So we're not waiting on the President of the United States or the governors or any politicians. And we're not just waiting on law enforcement. We are the ones that have the responsibility to make sure our children are safe. And even if they're not your blood children, we're still family. And if we all do a little bit, no one has to do a lot. So you'll see us discussing this more, but we really are serious. You know, I know it's a startup and startups are supposed to be about making money, but we're about making a difference. We didn't come here to just try to change our clothes or shoes or change our house or car address. We came to change the world. So we're making it very clear. I Love Black People is committed, of course, to excellence in developing a world-class app and world-class experience for our people. But with that being said, any time and energy we spend, we're spending it to make it better for our people. So again, thank you so much for always being there and sharing your thoughts. Info at iloveblackpeople.com. And as I always say, I am because we are. Thank you so much for joining me.
This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to Aflac for supporting I Love Black People Radio.